one. I'm gonna cover this one too. They got the leaf blowers out. Give me a second. I'm gonna cover this one too. Because, like, people's memories are so short, right? And he's bringing up, like, Sidney Powell and stuff, and what happened, like, when they were trying to say, it's just some ridiculousness, but check this out, check this out, check this out.
Anybody forensically examined these machines since the election?
Fox News host Sean Hannity admitted under oath, and this is now just being revealed, that he did not believe any of Donald Trump's election lies, despite the fact that he used his show to platform them. So I'm going to get to a clip with an example of that.
Well, yeah, because they already ruled that they are entertainment news, right? And so they don't actually have to tell the truth because they're entertaining people. And this is a serious problem that our Congress really needs to address, is the fact that we have cable news stations out there like Fox News, like MSNBC, like CNN, that are purporting themselves to be delivering news to people. And, everybody's general idea of what news is that you're telling me what's happening in the world today. And you're giving me the straight story. But that is never the case with cable news, especially Fox. It was not his job to make sure that the information was accurate. Like, that's like not what they do anymore, right? That's before Reagan removed the fairness doctrine. Isn't that what it was called? I think that's what it was called, right? This is now a matter of just trying to get visceral reactions from their audience, despite whether or not the information is true. And that's why it's so dangerous to our democracy.
In a second here, but this comes from a piece from the New York Times titled, "In Testimony, Hannity and other Fox employees," and I'll get to who else is named here, said they doubted Trump's fraud claims. On Wednesday, lawyers for Dominion Voting Systems shared some of the strongest evidence yet that some Fox employees knew what they broadcast about the claims was false. So this is around Dominion Voting Systems attempting to move forward with a defamation case against Fox News around Fox's lies, around how these voting machines were being used to rig the election for Joe Biden over Trump. Of course, all bullshit. And even though Fox platformed a lot of this garbage at the time, they knew while they were doing it that they were lying. So the first example, the main example they use here is Sean Hannity. So they write here, at the center of this imagined plot were machines from Dominion Voting Systems, which Miss Powell, one of the lawyers representing Donald Trump, claimed ran an algorithm that switched votes for Trump to votes for Biden. She insisted were being used.
Okay, so let's talk about where that comes from. He's talking about Sidney Powell. She was in the news quite a bit during, between like November 2020, when like election day, up until the insurrection, and then she kind of like tapered off, right? Like I don't think she was around anymore after that, but she was one of the attorneys trying to push this conspiracy theory, and I think she got in trouble for it. I don't know if she's been disbarred. I know Giuliani, I think, just got disbarred, right? Because they were both doing it. There was that great conference where like he had sprayed his hair. He sprayed his hair, and he had like brown shit melting all over his face. Oh, so bad. Okay, but anyway, so Sydney what she was trying to do is play off of something that happened. I want to say it was I think it was the 2008 election, but it might have been 2012, when Anonymous, because there's several different factions of Anonymous, right? There's a liberal Anonymous faction that fights for like the left-leaning causes. There is a alt-right Anonymous faction, and there's probably like a CIA version of Anonymous out there as well. But all of them are producing really high-quality videos. And so if you look at any of these videos, like, it can be pretty convincing, right? So Anonymous, back in, it was either 2008 or 2012, I can't remember which election, they came out with a video of, I think it was Karl Rove, on Fox News, being very surprised by the election results and expecting, like, they alluded to him expecting the vote to change because there was like some sort of outage at one of the vote centers that was like a key critical, I think it was Pennsylvania, but I can't remember. It's like this key critical place where the votes would have to be transferred to the state, because that's how they do it. You know, you collect the votes at the county level and then you bring them up to the state, and then they have to go to the federal government for the certification. They alluded to, the way that video was cut, they alluded to the idea that they somehow blocked Karl Rove from manipulating the vote. And this is a very famous video that's out there on YouTube, and you can probably find, I could try and dig it up and see if I can get a link to it, but it's this famous video of Karl Rove being absolutely shocked by the results, because he allegedly was involved in a plot that would manipulate the votes, and somehow Anonymous was able to block it. This is kind of where Sydney's going with this, is that the same sort of type of thing was supposed to happen, but we don't even know if that's real, because you can edit videos in such a way to make a story seem believable. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true. So we don't know what the truth is there. But I think this, more and more that we see this, it's becoming more apparent that these are GOP ghost stories to try and lessen the confidence of voters so that they feel their vote doesn't matter.
Or these machines, she insisted, were being used to trash large batches of votes. I'll get to this clip. It's so crazy in case you missed it. Mr. Hannity interrupted her with a gentle question that had been circulating among election deniers, despite a lack of supporting proof. Why were Democrats silencing whistleblowers who could prove this fraud? Did Mr. Hannity believe any of it? I did not believe it for 1 second. So I'll get to more here from the piece, but let me show you this.
Yeah, seriously, Convo Couch, take notice. Like, everybody's getting wise to this bullshit. We don't believe your bullshit anymore, because we have now been presented with enough evidence that we know that our elections are actually pretty solid. And when there are cases of fraud, it's so fucking small, it's so obscure, that it could not possibly overturn the elections.
Clip. So starts about here, and you're gonna hear Sidney Powell, her bullshit here, and then Sean Hannity will come in with his comments.
A couple of years ago, right?
The machine ran an algorithm that shaved votes from Trump and awarded them to Biden. They used the machines to trash large batches of votes that should have been awarded.
Just as a reminder, President Biden actually won by like 10 million votes. The only way that you could tip an election through voter fraud is if it's a really close race. It's got to be like razor thin margin on the votes in order to actually like manipulate it in such a way that you can't get caught. There's no fucking way that Donald Trump won when Biden got 10 million more votes than him. It's just impossible.
To President Trump, and they used a machine to inject and add massive quantities of votes for Mr. Biden. The only reason we really found out how bad it was.
I thought Democrats told us that we like whistleblowers. You're saying that these people can't talk because they're going to lose their job. I would think that they get protection.
Their job. Their lives have been threatened. One witness we know of got beaten up and is in the hospital. There have been all kinds of repercussions against people who have come forward to tell the truth. And no.
You know, these people are gonna go straight to fucking hell. If you are religious at all, they're going straight to fucking hell because they were willing to destroy people's lives simply to help Donald Trump get back in office.
So Democrats don't like whistleblowers. They only like liars who claim they're whistleblowers.
They like hearsay whistleblower.
All bullshit. Now, Sean Hannity, if he was telling the truth on air, would be pushing back here against Sidney Powell and her garbage and trying to find out where is any proof of this at all.
Right.
But instead, he is using this opportunity to try and attack Democrats for not.
That's exactly it. It's like there have never been, like, Sean Hannity and the other Fox News people and MSNBC too, like, and CNN, like all these cable news networks. It's not like they're like, that's an interesting claim. Can you prove it? What sort of evidence do you have to prove what you are alleging? That never fucking happens.
Supporting whistleblowers, even though he knew at the time this was all shit. So, New York Times goes on to
Oh, you and your ads, I can't even do it.
to write here, that was the answer Mr. Hannity gave under oath in the deposition in Dominion's $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit against Fox News, according to information disclosed in a court hearing on Wednesday. The hearing was called to address several issues that need to be resolved before the case heads for a jury trial, which the judge...
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously that is probably the best way to pursue this, is because there was an actual company involved that was being defamed through these statements. And, you know, when you have a business that you're operating and you've got high profile people out there trying to claim that your product doesn't work, I mean, good for them. Good for them.
has scheduled to begin in April. Mr. Hannity's disclosure, along with others that emerged from a court on Wednesday about what Fox News executives and hosts really believed as their network became one of the loudest megaphones for lies about the election, is among the strongest evidence yet to emerge publicly that some Fox employees knew what they were broadcasting was false. The high legal standard for proof in defamation cases makes it difficult for a company like Dominion to prevail against a media organization like Fox News. Dominion has to...
No, but they have a much better chance than like a private citizen. Like a lot of us, we get defamed all the time and we really have no recourse. You know, all we can do is try and like fuel out, like put out the counter messaging and say, hey, you know what, this person's lying about me. But when, in the case of like Dominion, I wonder, is Dominion, okay, so the Dominion that's doing the election machines, are they the same company as the Dominion that does the power grid on the East Coast? Is that like a conglomerate? I'm gonna have to look into this. Dominion, I think, is a Southern name, right? It the Old Dominion. I think I'm fairly certain that's like a Southern expression. So a lot of Southern companies pick that, but I don't know if they're related. If it's related to like the, I know I'm going off on a tangent. I get it.
Persuade a jury that people at Fox were in fact saying one thing in private while telling their audience exactly the opposite. And that requires showing a jury convincing evidence that speaks to the state of mind of those who were making the decisions at the network. And I think they have the evidence. I mean, we just saw it. He didn't push back on Sidney Powell. He used this opportunity to attack Democrats in not supporting whistleblowers that were apparently at the center of this story. So, Hannity isn't the only one mentioned here. Many of the highest-ranking Fox people have admitted under oath that they never believed the Dominion lies, he said, naming both Ms. Cooper and Mr. Carlson. So Tucker Carlson, of course, and Cooper, it refers to Meade Cooper, who oversees primetime programming for Fox News. Mr. Shackelford described how Mr. Carlson, Shackelford being a lawyer for Dominion, described how Carlson had tried to squirm out of it at his deposition when asked about what he really believed. Mr. Shackelford started to elaborate about what Mr. Carlson had said privately, telling the judge about the existence of the text messages the host had sent in November and December of 2020, but the judge, Eric M. Davis, cut him off, leaving the specific contents of those texts unknown. So, a lot of this stuff apparently cannot be released in terms of the video. The depositions apparently cannot be released publicly. That was decided by the judge. But they can still discuss.
Well, yeah, because we're still in kind of that area that we're in that gray zone of these are entertainment channels, so they get to have some like artistic license to how they present information, which is really this is unfortunate. This is bad for us. It's bad for society. But as the laws currently stand, they are allowed to mislead the public. And obviously, there have been some pretty severe consequences as a result of them being able to do that.
Discuss it without any issues, and that's why we're hearing some of this come out now. But this also goes to how this, of course, isn't new. This shouldn't be surprising. A lot of the hosts on Fox, look, there are true believers. I do think Sean Hannity generally is a true believer, but when it comes to something so blatant like lies around the election, of course he knew it was bullshit, and a lot of the hosts know.
Well, hey, hang on a second. Don't forget that Sean Hannity was the dude who he hosted that interview with the black private, I think he was a private investigator, right? Who said he had information on Seth Rich. And then they had to like retract it like within a couple of days. You remember that? And there was that other story. There was like some other guy who they started a whole conspiracy theory about the Mayo Clinic trying to kill off political opposition to the Clintons. Like, we've had so many fucked up, weird ass stories. And unfortunately, I guess I'm close enough to the network of people who shares this shit.
What they do is bullshit, which is why, even legally, as a defense, they use the fact that they lie as their defense. So this piece from a couple years ago, you literally can't believe the facts Tucker Carlson tells you, so says Fox's lawyers. So this was around a case around Tucker and he was being accused of slander. Here it is. So it's being made by a federal judge in the Southern District of New York and Fox News' own lawyers in defending Carlson against accusations of slander. It worked, by the way. So them saying that, well, you can't believe what Tucker says on air, that was the defense that Fox's lawyers used against accusations of slander, and they were successful with that defense. Wow. And this is public knowledge. This has been out for years. And yet still, Tucker Carlson, the #1 rated primetime host in cable news. The most watched individual on television in news. Tucker, who has admitted, his lawyers admit to him being full of shit. So just a little more here. Just read.
Isn't this sad? Isn't this sad that, like, this is what life is now, that you know, my grandfather said something about this to me in the 80s, that I can't just trust everything I see on television. He was a grumpy old man, right? But he's right. Like, and this was even before the fairness doctrine was removed. He was talking about, like, just ads, like ads on TV, that they would make grandiose claims. This is very sad. This is very sad. Especially when we have so many channels that maybe have large followings or small followings or whatever, or maybe they get a lot of views, whatever it is, but they're spreading misinformation and defamatory statements and making ridiculous assumptions and proving that they are mentally unstable, that they can't come to realistic conclusions about what is happening in the world today. Um, it's sad. It's sad. But yeah, Tucker totally. And by the way, Tucker brings on Jimmy Dore. He brings on Tulsi Gabbard. I don't know if he's had Jackson Hinkle on his show yet, but I'm sure that's coming because like that's his. Like, dude looks like he's totally trying to replace him. He's brought on Glenn Greenwald. I think that at this point we know that these are all GOP fucking trolls. They're all GOP trolls.
Just read U.S. District Judge Mary Kay Visgossel's opinion, leaning heavily on the arguments of Fox's lawyers. The general tenor of the show should then inform a viewer that Carlson is not stating, this is his lawyers, Carlson is not stating actual facts about the topics he discusses and is instead engaging in exaggeration and non-literal commentary. She wrote, Fox persuasively argues that given Mr. Carlson's reputation, any reasonable viewer arrives with an appropriate amount of skepticism about the statement he makes.
I think that, okay, any court in America today should be wise enough to know that what Tucker Carlson is doing is misleading millions of people who are not paying attention. And I'm sorry, but it is not acceptable to me that you can chalk that up to him being entertainment value, or that a reasonable person should know that he's a liar. Why do you have a liar on screen for all of these working class people across the country who actually believe what he says? How is this acceptable?
So they're basically saying if you believe what Tucker Carlson is selling, then you're a moron. Because any reasonable viewer would arrive with the skepticism about his statements.
Well, I could tell you straight up that I have college-educated, master's-educated people within my own family that fucking listen to him. So that's some bullshit.
There's nothing left to say about Fox News. They know they're lying. They've admitted to lying. They use it as a defense. They've won with that defense, meaning that it's secure, that they are right in their assessment that these hosts are lying. Yet still, the audience that they bring, the people that actually believe the shit they say, it's depressing. Yeah. But I don't like this isn't just to anyone coming at this video and not knowing that I criticize all media, not just Fox News. Yes, of course, hosts and other networks as well. I don't think they don't lie about election results. That is just a clear, blatant lie. But yes, there are other lies made, or not even necessarily lies, but framing around issues are always very pro-corporate, very pro-status quo, very anti-working class. That, of course, is a consistent issue, especially on CNN, but also on MSNBC, at least for most of the hosts.
Well, no, they're actually trying to use some of the progressive talking points now. They're trying to convince their viewership that they actually care about the working class, which they don't. You're right, they don't. But they're actually trying to act as though they do care, simply by pointing out Democratic Party failures of when they can't get enough. And usually the reason they can't get enough is because they're fighting the Republicans to get that legislation passed. But they take advantage of every single moment to be like, well, you really didn't do that much for the working class, did you?
And that continues to be a problem as well. But when it comes to, the worst of the worst in terms of at least cable news, Fox is up there, and it is unbelievable the amount of people that listen to this trash and still believe what they're saying.
I know, right?